Hello and welcome to Tiny Table Talk for The Challenge, Season 38, Episode 10. Now, I got a lot of thoughts, a lot of things I want to get off my chest from this past week's episode of The Challenge. So, let's not waste any time jumping straight into... Now, I have to be completely honest with everybody in saying that I felt this past week's episode of The Challenge, Episode 10, was one of the more slower moving episodes of the season. I felt the pacing was quite off in this episode. I don't think really anything happened this episode, especially towards the end when we got that twist from TJ, but we'll get to that twist. Trust me, we'll get to it. Maybe it was because I felt that this episode was super predictable, at least for me. I mean, once we get to the daily challenge and TJ goes over the rules, I was like, all right, Team Fessel has this one in the bag, which they did. And then once TJ announced that it was a guy's day, I knew that Kenny would find his way into the elimination where he would be the one ultimately leaving this episode. And technically, he didn't even do that. So maybe for me, because I felt like it was super predictable, I just kept eyeing the time and kind of realizing like, man, only a half an hour has passed. Like, is this episode really going to start picking up? I think because of the limited options that Team Fessel had and who they could send directly into the elimination and the options of who to send in, depending on who picked the safe sword, really didn't lend to much strategy having to be implemented this episode. I don't know, I just felt like it was somewhat lackluster, and that's not good because this is the first full episode where everybody was running in these two giant teams, where before we got into these two teams, I felt like nobody could hide when everybody was still in pairs because we were getting to a point where people were going to have to start nominating their friends and alliance members with everybody stuck in pairs, but because they want to fulfill a 21 to 22 episode season, including the 1 hour special that kicked off the season, as well as a multi-episode final, as well as a multi-episode reunion, I'm sure of. They had to find a way to elongate this game and stretch out the time. And so this is where we get everything split into two teams, solo eliminations, as well as the twist that is now put into play by TJ at the end of this episode when Kenny walks back into the zone and TJ announces that everybody who is eliminated will be put into like a holding center, a redemption house style twist where nobody's going to be really eliminated in the game unless their original partner is also eliminated sometime along the way. And as long as your original partner stays in this game at a certain point, they will then pony up and then they will do a redemption game where people can come back into the game, or a person can come back into the game. Kenny could be in a redemption house for a month, just laying in wait. With this twist, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of redemption houses or redemption games. I just feel if you lose, you lose. But because of this theme, and they decided to put everybody into two teams, and the way that Bloodlines was run with the eliminations where if people lost an elimination, they had to take their partner with them, which made no sense. But now you introduce that, oh, people can leave, but now their original partner, if they stay in the game, can tether them to where they have 1 foot out the door and 1 foot in the door. Makes a little bit more sense, but it leaves me, at least it leaves me, and I can only speak for myself. Please let me know if it's the same for anybody else watching the season down in the comment section below. But for me, it feels like when nobody leaves at the end of the episode, it just feels so unsatisfactory. You know, it feels like there's no resolution to the episode. It feels like this could all be undone later on in this season. Like, the next few weeks, if we see one person from all different pairings go out one by one, and we go through 5 episodes where technically nobody goes home, in the back of our brains, we know that one or multiple of these eliminations that we just watched could be erased because of the format and the twist of the redemption house. So does Horacio's fourth elimination win kind of get a weird asterisk next to it because it didn't really matter because Kenny just walks back into the game after 4 or 5 weeks of not being on camera and kind of sitting in a hotel room by himself. It just feels like unfinished business at the end of every single episode. It's almost as if I'm watching a to be continued because yes, you'll see the people walking off the screen and somebody will get credit for winning an elimination. It's just that not really though. It's a but wait. It's a we'll see maybe kind of vibe at the end of the episode. I'm hoping that the next episode is a little bit more quick paced, a little bit more eventful, because having this episode, the first episode where the two-team twist is in full action, be slow moving is not good because you put in a twist to really shake up the game and turn things upside down. But to me, it almost felt like it put its foot on the brakes a little bit, like the production put the foot on the brakes a little bit to where maybe some people who could have been thrown in sooner rather than later because of the pairings and who could have possibly won into power and having to name 4 teams. Now it kind of protects some people, i.e. like CT in last season when they went to a 3-team format. It's not good to feel like this is the slowest and maybe one of the more boring episodes of the season after a twist was newly introduced into the game. And then on top of that, I'm not a huge fan of the Redemption House twist, but I can understand where they're coming from it. But what do you think about the 2-team twist? Do you think this episode was a little bit more slow, or do you think that this was action-packed? And where did you think it was action-packed? Because I would like to see your perspective on it. Let me know down in the comment section below. And what do you think about the Redemption House style twist? Are you a fan of it? Let me know down in the comment section below. Now, this is going to look a little bit different moving forward because normally I pick a pair that I thought did really well this episode and could be doing well through the rest of the season, as well as picking a pair that maybe stumbled this past week's episode and then could be on the verge of seeing an elimination sooner rather than later. Essentially, I'm going to be changing this to Ryden is the MVP of the episode and Diane is some people who could be in trouble based off of this past week's performances. The MVP of this week's episode, I have to give it to Horacio. One, he was the only person to knock somebody off during the daily challenge. He was able to knock off Bananas. I'm sure Bananas is gonna take to the airwaves on his podcast talking about how he threw yet another daily challenge, but a win is a win. So Horacio wins against Bananas. He's the only person to knock off somebody from the other team, Team Fessel. Then he even went up against Fessel. He put up a valiant effort before getting tossed into the water, and then he was called out to go directly into the elimination. He went into another elimination and won. And nobody can put an asterisk towards this win. Nobody can say without a doubt that Horacio took care of business in this elimination, winning his 4th elimination on the season. He is only 1 win away to tying Wes and Casey from Fresh Meat, tying Sarah Grayson from the Gauntlet. Next up in the dying category, I have to say it is the trio of Chauncey, Olivia, and Nelson. They were left out of the talks from their team of who to vote into the elimination. Nelson seemed pretty frustrated, so did Olivia. Chauncey seemed confused by, we never even spoke about this until we got here. Now we're doing a quick huddle. I think this is spelling bad news, 1, for the trio of Olivia, Nelson, and Chauncey, but 2, also team camaraderie between Team Fessel. Because now it looks like what Nelson says in the preview or the mid-season trailer, that there's a team within a team, and it's 5 versus 3 as we are looking towards the next episode. It is trivia, and I think that plays directly into the hands of Team Mariah, which I think gives them the upper hand because they are brainiacs. Where if Team Fessel were to lose, I am worried for Olivia first, and then if Team Fessel were to stumble again, and it's a guy's day, I'm worried for Chauncey and Nelson. Now let's read some comments from my Thursday's review and recap, and the first comment comes from Olivia, who says, "It's not a true challenge season if it's not sponsored by a movie. Last season, the challenge was sponsored by Top Gun Maverick. Maybe because it was a Paramount Picture movie that they were able to have everybody get into jet gear, get the glasses, do the photo shoots, get the big old plane to be submerged into the water where it was a pretty intense, fun challenge, I would say, especially because I dressed up for it, where this season they got a cameo from Antonio Banderas and then a trailer/teaser for Puss in Boots. And that was basically the extent of their promotion with the movie, besides showing off a whole bunch of cast members with their cat photos. Adriana asked, did anyone else cringe at the overpromotion of the Puss in Boots movie this episode? I'm okay with them pretending to like Burger King, but this was a little much for me. You are not the only person that thought that, because I felt the same way. Amari comes in with a comment saying, I literally knew Fessy was gonna say, I'll go against Horacio on his big ol' high horse. Fessel was like coming out there going like, Horacio needs to be knocked down a peg, because I think he felt good about taking out Bananas, but now I'm gonna show him that I'm not Bananas. Nobody can feel good around Fessel, it seems. Especially if you're a guy, it's like Fessel has to always put his foot down and be like, I'm the alpha around here. It's like, calm down, man. He took out Bananas. He did a good job. Just let him have his moment for a second. It's like everything has to be something with Fessel, to the point where it's like, I gotta show everybody that I'm the guy. Like, just having to constantly prove his worth to everybody. Sade Grant comes in with a comment saying, Fessy ain't, how are you gonna talk that much trash about the girl that has been defending you this whole season? This season is never going to end. 60 minutes to have only one person eliminated who doesn't even go home. I feel that last sentence so much. But I wanted to bring up your comment, mainly because one, it was a really good comment, but two, I wanted to bring up Fessel talking about Mariah and Casey, and the comment he had during the Daily Challenge where he was like, I came into the game with Mariah, but Casey is my real ride or die. And I wonder if when production floated the theme to Fessel, that he would be like, my number one person that I would like as my partner is Casey, and then had to come up with another backup person to be his partner for the season because Casey didn't want to be partnered with him. Anthony comes in with a comment saying, I don't care what the Argentina doctor says, Nani 100% had a concussion. The shake she had and the stiffness of her body suggest that she had a head injury. It's called fencing, and our bodies go into a protection mode. I have had a few concussions in my life and witnessed a lot playing football. 100% a concussion. First of all, I'm sorry that you had to go through all those concussions. I hope you're feeling well. And two, I felt the same way. When I saw how hard she hit the water, where she hit the water, and then she was just laying there lifeless and then shaking in the van. First of all, it looked really, really bad. To the point where I was like, she definitely needs to go get checked out. And when she said she had a clean bill of health, I was like, are you sure? Can you get a second opinion? The next comment comes from Daisy Verts, who says, I love Horacio's attitude. He has that old school feel. He doesn't take being put in personal. He's not into the social antics, because when Mariah was telling him up the social game, he's just like, yeah, whatever. They want me in. They want me. I'm not going to beg. I'm going to go in and keep coming back. Oh, I love him. I think we got a new star on the rise. Horacio is someone who, I agree with you, is giving me that old school vibes. The Landon, the old school Darrell, the person who is not necessarily into alliances, backstabbing, lying, but he keeps on being sent in. And no matter how many times he gets thrown down, sent in, knocked down, he rises to the occasion, which I really, really find admirable in a challenger, but also in a player, in a rookie like Horacio. Rocco comes in with a comment, and it's a long one, saying, I understand what they're trying to go for, because obviously the elimination format from Bloodlines didn't pan out the way they wanted, but I also get the sense that they're trying to piece together filler to hit that 22 episode mark. 100%. This format will go for 6 episodes to have one team have both players eliminated and a second team possibly purged. I also somewhat dislike this format as it gives players like Kenny and Anissa an express pass to the purge/post-2 team portion of the game because they'll be entirely carried by their partner. Yes, 100%. I don't think I was able to articulate my thoughts on why I'm not a huge fan of the Redemption House twist, especially in this season, but I think you hit the nail perfectly on the head. I wanted to read your comment because I know I was going to fumble through that section, and I think you just did a perfect job in that comment. Thank you so much. As Simply Done comments, I promise they are finding ways to prolong this season. Doing the twist this way means that possibly no one can get sent home till like the 15th episode. Think about that. If nobody goes home until the 15th episode, that's over a month. We are well into January, almost to February, and possibly nobody could go home. How crazy is that? No, thank you. I did not sign up for that. And the last comment comes from Scream, who says, I yelled, "Oh my gosh, they killed Kenny," then laughed so loud at the fact he came back at the end of the episode. That is a really good reference. But that is it for this week's Tiny Table Talk. What did you think about this week's episode? Let me know down in the comment section below. What did you think about all the twists that have been thrown at us? Do you think it's going to heighten the level of the gameplay and make things more exciting moving forward? Or do you think the exact opposite? What do you think about my riding and dying picks? Do you agree with my picks or do you disagree? Let me know your picks down in the comment section below that you would say for this week's episode. And what do you think about trivia happening next week? Are you excited for trivia? Do you think this is the time for Team Mariah to step up and win into power? Or do you think Team Fessel will keep on their winning streak? Let me know anything and everything down in the comment section below. I want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who is watching this video up to this point. I'll be back really, really soon with more Challenge 38 content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.